Yo, this is Teresa Weatherspoon, better known as Teaspoon, and you're watching Real Fans, Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe, you can.
This is Real Fans, Real Talk. Real Fans, Real Talk. We as real as you thought. Real Fans.
What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. Oh, man. Extended week. You know what I'm saying? We switched the days up to Tuesday this week, but we're going to get to all this sports talk in just a second. Let me introduce my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend in Two Games.
What's really good, bro? We got a lot to get into. Shout out to the comment section because I already see us buzzing tonight.
Yeah. They're dropping questions because that's a lot going on. It's March Madness. We almost hit the NBA playoffs. So it's a lot going on right now. We got lawsuits going on in boxing. It's a lot. There's a lot going on in the world right now, man. Let me see. Let me pull up one of these questions, man. Hold on. Shout out to Squeezy. He says, did you all see Felicia Leggett, Jack's comments after losing to UConn?
This where we started?
What was the exact quote she had? Let me see if I can pull it up.
You can pull the quote up. I'll start off by saying this, Trip. Women's basketball will never be taken seriously as long as there's coaches like Felicia Leggett Jack. Her comments yesterday were so corny, so off base, and so much of a whiny moment within sports that if you expect people to take women's basketball seriously, you can't have that mentality as a coach. For her to sit there and complain that they had to play UConn in the second round and say, oh, we should get more respect as a school than to have to come to UConn. First of all, for people that don't realize, within women's college basketball, the tournament is structured outside of the one seeds. It's structured based on region. They try to keep you as close to your region as possible to make it easier for travel and make it easier for your student body to go to the games, right? So Syracuse obviously would be a natural fit to be in the same bracket as UConn, right? Upper Northeast. She was upset that they had to play UConn. They got smoked by UConn. Then goes on to say we should get more respect than to have to play UConn in the second round of playoffs. If you want more respect, that is earned, not given. You don't go to UConn and then be losing the game by 53 points in the first half, and then later on cry about respect. I also want to say this, Trick, when you sent me the clip of Ozzie Fudd, who went off yesterday, right? And I thought about these comments. Shout out to Squeeze for bringing this up. These are the games that Syracuse lost this year. So you tell me where the respect comes in, Trip. They lost to Michigan by 36 points. They lost to Duke by 20 points. They lost to Virginia Tech by 20 points. They lost to Louisville the first time by 19 points. They lost by 14 points to NC State. They lost by 10 to Notre Dame. They lost by 16 points the second time they played Louisville. And then obviously yesterday's 53-point beating to UConn, right? Don't talk to me about deserving respect when you were the 7th ranked team in the ACC. You finished 7th in the ACC. You had no significant wins this year. You got blown out by damn near every team that you played this year, and then got the nerve to complain about having to go to UConn. If you want to be a champion, if you want to be one of the better teams, if you want to be recognized as one of the better teams, you got to be ready to go to war against whoever's on bracket, whoever you got to play. You don't get to pick and choose who you're going to play and then complain later on because you got to play UConn. Because guess what? If you really thought you were competing for a national championship, at some point you were going to have to beat the UConn Huskies.
And that's my issue. It's like, all right, in order to win the national championship, you are going to have to go through some of the powerhouse schools. So what would be the difference in you playing them early and you playing them late? Y'all lost by 50. This ain't like this was a close game where it's like, you know what? It may be. They might, a little bit more time. They could have probably beat them. No, y'all got smoked out the gym. So it is not even a situation where it was like, it's maybe y'all could have did. No, y'all was going to lose whether you played them today, tomorrow, yesterday, 5 years from now. Whenever you played them, you was going to lose to UConn. So,
and like I said, right. And Trip, we sit here, we advocate all the time for the women's game. We've had legends up here talk about the women's game. We always talk about giving the recognition to the women's game.
Yes.
And her comments to me set all of that back because we can't, not just us, our supporters, and plenty of people out there who love women's basketball. You can't sit there and support the game and talk about the recognition they deserve and how more people need to support it And then you have a head coach who comes out and complains about having to play the best team in the country. Are we not competing? Are we not trying to compete? Are we not trying to see where we measure up against the best teams in the country? Come on, bro. Like, and then to sit there and say, "Oh, we deserve more respect." You deserve more respect for finishing 7th in the ACC. You were unranked. You were a 9th seed in the tournament, and you had the opportunity to prove to the world that you deserve to be on that stage. What did we saw in the men's game recently when High Point won their game? What did their coach say? We try to play the best teams this year. They wouldn't play us, so we wanted to take advantage of this opportunity in the tournament.
Yeah.
Syracuse had the same thing. And that's why I started off by saying the women's game will never be taken seriously as long as this is the mindset. You cannot have this mindset and expect people to feel sympathetic for you. You had to go in there, and as a coach, you had the chance to go in there and compete. As a coach, you had an opportunity to go in there and shock the world. And I also was put off by her comments when she said, I knew it was going to be a long afternoon when we walked in the gym and our players had to look at those banners hanging from the rafters. So you're intimidated by a team that's been winning. That speaks more to your mindset, coach, not the players. You sound like you were intimidated by the moment, and now you're projecting that on your team.
Yeah. Let me just read the quote, for the exact quote for you guys. For us to do what we've done, to continuously have to come to UConn and every single school that I go to from Buffalo, it's unfair to the young people. And then she says, I thought deserved a little bit more respect. So those were the comments.
So was it unfair to South Carolina all those years they had to keep playing Tennessee until Dawn Staley turned South Carolina into a powerhouse?
Mm-hmm.
Was that unfair? Shout out to Hoop Central. You can put that comment up next. Like he said, why doesn't she recruit better? You can't use the example of when I coached at Buffalo, we had to come to UConn too. Yeah, because that's another Northeast school. The committee makes it clear as day that they try to group teams together from the same region because it makes it easier for travel and it makes it easier for your student body to come to the game and support you. That's known ahead of time. That isn't some new thing. This isn't like, oh, they decided. It would be worse if they put Syracuse in a bracket with UCLA and made Syracuse have to keep going to the West Coast to play in a tournament game, because then you would get nobody from Syracuse who can go out there. And speaking of, she's talking about playing UConn as if like would it have been any better if they had to play South Carolina? Would it have been any better if they had to play UCLA or Texas, the other number 1 seeds in this year's tournament? Like, don't make it seem like our path to greatness would have been easier if we would have just got South Carolina. It would have been so much easier for us than to play UConn. Come on.
I was getting smoked out the gym no matter what.
Right. Let's call it what it is. You weren't prepared. Your team wasn't prepared, and y'all didn't play well.
Basically. Let me throw this next one up. First weekend of the men's NCAA tournament is over. Did you all get your picks right? Well, I'm only focused on one pick, and that's the Devils. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, it's gonna get crazier, but for the most part, yeah, I think I'm good on my picks.
I've been good on. I think I'm pretty much in good shape. I think the biggest loss I had in terms of it was a second round game, and I got to go back and double check who it was, but there was a second round game. Oh, Florida. I didn't think Florida was going to lose that early in the tournament. I thought Florida was going to be around a little bit longer. But my final 4 picks are all still around. I talked about them last week. Arkansas is looking exactly the way I thought. Shout out to Will Gordon. I see him in the comment section because he and I were texting yesterday. There is some great value for potential national champions if you go on FanDuel. With us being in the Sweet 16, you can get plus 2,500 odds on UConn, I think, which is great value. You can get, I think, plus 4,500 for Arkansas, which I think is great value. I think plus 3,000 for St. John's. These are all schools that have great value and have the teams built for a tournament run. So I think from the gambling aspect, we always got to talk about that, Trip. I think there's some really good value if you want to throw a little $25 on the team and see what happens.
Yeah. Let me go to this next one. Ron says, what's your thoughts on Darren Peterson's play this weekend for Kansas? If you are a GM, are you scared to draft him? Well, I mean, just what he's been going through this entire season is there's a whole storyline that's been built up that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for teams if they're thinking about drafting Peterson. Problem is, and we spoke about this, I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, Eric, what he was going to need to do to help his case as far as draft wise. And I think we would have probably needed a little bit more of him playing games in the tournament as opposed to, whereas now you lose to St. John's, and he actually did have a pretty good game, a solid game. I ain't gonna say he had a pretty good game, but he had a solid game. But I mean, you're still going home, so now it's just like, all right, now we got to go with what we saw from the regular season, all of the games that you missed or came out of, and then we don't have, we only have a small sample size of you guys in the tournament. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, he still winds up being a lottery pick. I'm sure he still goes in the top 5. But this is a kid who had a chance to be the number 1 draft pick.
Shout out to Ron. I don't think Darren Peterson should be a top 3 pick in his draft. He probably will go top 3. I didn't like what I saw from him, to be honest. For a guy who is as athletically gifted as he is, he too often looks unsure about what he wants to do on the court. It's almost like he's overthinking it. I saw the post, I believe it was Hoop Central that put it up, that had said, is he going to take over this game? And that was like, about 7 minutes ago. He did not take over that game. They had opportunities he did not do what needed to be done. And in comparison, you look at what Darius Acuff did at the end of his games with Arkansas to win. If you look at Debanza, how he played at the end of his games. If you look at Boozer, I thought those guys looked far more comfortable in crunch time. Those guys looked far more experienced and looked like they had a higher basketball IQ, point blank, period. I think Darren Peterson has a lot of potential, and there will be teams that will draft him purely off potential because we know that's how the NBA works. But for me, I didn't like what I saw, and I think he's a guy that is going to struggle at the next level because he relies too much on his athleticism. And everybody at the next level is a great athlete. Everybody at the next level can jump out the gym and make plays. He, to me, does not have the makings of a guy who's going to be a superstar at the next level. So when you're talking about drafting a guy at number 3, you expect to get an impact guy. I just don't see that from him right now. Now, again, he's still very raw. He's young, but between the cramping situation and then the way he ended that game, the only reason Kansas got back in that game wasn't because of him. He took some really bad 3-point shots in that game. They got back in that game because of their hustle and their defense. He was supposed to be the best player on that team. He didn't take over late. I didn't like what I saw from him at all, Ron. But if I'm a GM, I would be a little bit worried about it. But I know there are teams, again, who will look at him and say, at 19 years old, with all the talent and upside and athleticism that he has, it's going to be too tough to pass up on him.
Yeah, they're going to work with him.
Yeah.
Darius Acuff Jr. has become the people's champion in college hoops. He wasn't ranked his junior year and is a threat to be a top 2 pick. Who his game reminds you all of? Well, I'm not going to say who his game reminds me of, but his story reminds me of Steph in college.
Which Steph?
Curry. Just, going to a small, school, Davidson, and then kind of turning up.
Arkansas is not a small school, though.
Yeah, but they ain't been.
Weren't they in the Final Four last year? Either they made the Elite 8 or the Final Four last year.
About popularity-wise, they ain't been one of the top schools that we really talk about. But it's also a smaller guard. I think he's actually going to be a pretty good rookie next season in the NBA, and he's earned his spot. He's worked his way up in the draft order because he wasn't. I don't even think too many people were talking about him at the beginning of the season, as far as especially not in this capacity. And then as the season just kept going along, he just started building his name up more and more and more. And then now he's got himself in a position where he's looking at possibly being the top 2 draft pick.
Shout out to Darius Acuff. I think he has put together a great run, not only in this tournament, he did it in the SEC tournament, and the way he ended the season has really helped his draft stock. Shout out to Squeeze, because that's the comparison I was going to use, as Will Gordon and I were texting yesterday, because when you said Steph, to me, he's Steph Marbury. His game reminds me so much of Marbury, actually with a purer shot than Marbury had at this point in his collegiate career when Steph was at Georgia Tech. But I think Darius Acuff, I think his game is ready-made for the NBA. Granted, he's a 6'1" guard, so you wonder how that's going to translate on the defensive end and if he will be a guy that will struggle to defend. But I do see a lot of Steph Marbury in this game. I've heard the AI comparisons mainly because of the height. I like that one as well, Will. Steve Francis. I think Steve Francis was a little more explosive than Acuff was. I think Acuff is a little bit more methodical when he gets to his spots, and he knows how to manipulate a defense so well. That's why I think he's going to be really good at the next level. He's going to be a young guard that understands how to manipulate defenders. But I see Acuff as a better shooting version of Stephon Marbury at the next level.
Let me just go back and throw Hoop Central's coming up. He said, yeah, Eric, I posted it mid-game. He seemed like he didn't care, but he says he had a full body cramp, and that messed him up mentally.
Yeah, I'm going to start saying that when I want to get out of work. I got a full body cramp. That's going to be my new excuse from now on.
Okay, let me come back up here to the top. Okay. Donovan, shout out to Donovan. Donovan says, did you all see Wemby's comments on why he should be the MVP? Does he have any points? I mean, Wemby is definitely making a case to be in the MVP conversation. I just don't know if there's enough time left in the season for him to really legitimately be an MVP contender because of what we've seen, excuse me, from Shea all season, what we've seen from Joker all season, what we've seen from Luka, from Jaylen Brown. I mean, I know obviously Cade got hurt, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too, but what we've seen from these guys, I think that Wemby would need to do a lot more, and there's just not enough games left in the season. Now, Defensive Player of the Year, hands down, that's going to Wemby. And that's going to be first of many.
Yeah, I think Wemby is in the conversation, and he does have a point, Donovan. I mean, let's be real. Cade is not going to be in the conversation because Cade's not going to play enough games. Joker can't miss any games the rest of the way, or he's going to be out of it as well. So I really think it's coming down to Shea. It's coming down to Jaylen Brown, and I think Luka's in the conversation as well. We talked about this last week where I said Luka's probably 4th or 5th. Luka's probably moved up a little bit because Luka's just been going crazy the last couple of weeks, and now kind of solidifying the Lakers as the 3rd seed out west. But Wemby has a legitimate case, and they're 3 games back of the OKC Thunder for the number 1 seed in the West. If they get the number 1 seed in the West, I don't know how you can't give it to Wemby. They, at that point, they would have probably the 2nd best record in the league. And with his impact, we always talk about both sides of the court, what he can do. There is no one that is affecting
to get to that number 1 seed.
Right. I think that would be the difference. If they get the number 1 seed in the West, there is no player in the game right now who is affecting winning more than Victor Wembanyama. What he's doing offensively and defensively, he did it again last night. There is nobody who has more of an impact night in, night out than Wemby. So that might be the only thing that's holding him back. Maybe they just need to get to that number 1 seed. But I definitely think he's in that conversation.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out to Wemby. But like I say, and he definitely, Defensive Player of the Year, that's going to be his.
Mm-hmm.
So, let me see what we got next. Okay. Donovan says, how do y'all feel Cam Boozer's game will translate to the NBA? I would say honestly, because I think he's like a better version of his dad, but I think their games are similar, but I would say he's a better shooter than his dad, and he's a little bit more athletic than, not that he's super athletic, but I think he's just more athletic than his dad. But so I think it does translate. I would probably say if, like a current player that he would be similar to, I would say Julius Randle. I think he would look like that in the league.
I don't think he's going to be as physical or as versatile as Julius Randle, because people forget Julius Randle can handle the ball. He can create offense. Now, he tends to over-dribble. But to me, Cam Boozer will never be the elite-level all-star that everybody thinks he's going to become. I talked about this last week in the player comp I gave. To me, he's a cross between a David West and a Al Horford, a guy who's steady, who's reliable. Every night, 18 points, 8-9 rebounds. He'll be very good on any team he's on. Is he going to be super exciting? No. Is he going to be super athletic? No. He may struggle against quicker forwards, but he's going to get drafted at a spot, like I said, that's high because of the hype coming out of Duke. But I just don't see him as a high-level, consistent all-star in the league. And I wouldn't even use Julius Randle because I think Julius Randle is just a little bit more versatile, was more versatile when he came out of college than Cam Boozer is right now. Cam is going to be good. He's going to be good, Trip, but he's not going to be an elite level scorer at the next level. And he's not going to be a guy that I think is going to wow you. He's going to be a guy that's good if you have the good foundational pieces around him. If you put good guards around him, if you put a rim protecting big around him, he'll be good. But we got to see how time plays out. I just think a David West, Al Horford type player comp is who he is.
All right, let me go to Kyrie. Kyrie says USC got smashed yesterday by South Carolina. But get y'all licks in now because Juju Watkins will be back with the Jazzy Girl, and they got the #1 recruiting class next year. Scary. I mean, listen, it's no slouch. Don't make you a bad team, bad person to lose to South Carolina, which has been overall the most dominant team maybe the past 4 or 5 years. With Coach Staley really, and Eric, you mentioned earlier, putting her mark down and turning that program completely around. So, you know what I'm saying? You got to feel too bad about that. The best of them have went down to that South Carolina team. But yeah, and that's something. They'll be back. Remember, Juju is still coming off of, the injury. So that, that's going to take the time to get back to 100%. And then, you bring in that class, their new recruiting class. I think they'll be fine moving forward. I think, we may even see them in the Final Four next year.
Possibly, but it's disrespectful that USC had to play South Carolina in the second round of the tournament, Trip. They should never have to play South Carolina in the second round of the tournament. How dare the committee make them do that without Juju? But USC has a great recruiting class. They get their star back next year. And USC will be just fine. They're going to get back to Providence and be one of the high-level teams next year once they're fully healthy.
Shout out to Juju. I think she got a new commercial out, too. Let me see. Shout out to Imani. She says, Trip, when y'all new pick, why you look not real? I don't know. It was this, and it was an AI pick. So however they did it, I was just trying to get the thumbnail ready so we could put it up. Let me see here. Shout out to Will Gordon. What it do?
Will.
All right. Let me see. Hoops Hype says Tracy McGrady says the NBA don't have the talent to be adding 2 more teams. Do y'all agree? That's 2 more teams is a lot. I mean, that's what 30 more players you talking about. But I mean, more guys will get a chance to shine. Like I'm okay with them adding 2 more teams. That's just more basketball games. You know what I'm saying, that we get to watch. We'll be able to watch more stars because somebody's gonna have to go to them 2 expansion teams. So I ain't gonna say I ain't gonna say they don't have enough talent because it's guys on the way. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a pretty solid draft class. The guys are coming up after that, so I think they will have enough talent of to fill out them 2 teams. I ain't gonna do that. Like it's hoopers out there.
It's a lot of talent in the league. Expansion was inevitable. We knew it was happening. We knew Seattle was going to get a team back at some point. We knew Vegas was going to get into the mix at some point. I think the bigger concern, and I don't know if T-Mac said this because I didn't hear his comments, but I think the bigger concern is right now the league has an issue with tanking. And it's something we talked about several times. It's a topic that continues to come up. You look around the league, now we've gotten to a point where consistently we're seeing anywhere from 5 to 7 teams every year that are tanking for a top pick. And so adding 2 new teams into that mix, is that going to now expand how many teams are tanking on a consistent basis? Because
they're going to be tanking for, but not purposely tanking. They just going to be tanking because they ain't going to be good enough. It's going to be like when Toronto and Memphis joined the league.
But it's going to be the combination. It's going to be the combination of they're not good enough and they still want to try to get one of those top 3 picks.
Absolutely.
And so, right, because I mean, a lot of teams are doing it now, and some of these teams do got talent, and they're still looking to tank it away, and they're not trying to. I mean, Dallas been tanking for 2 months now.
The good thing is with the NBA is that there's still the lottery. You know what I mean? So it's tanking can't get to where it can get to in the NFL, right? Because
I think in the NFL is completely different because you're talking about a smaller sample size. You're talking about 17 games. Right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying from the standpoint of we know that in the NFL, the team with the worst record automatically gets the #1 pick in the draft. So taking there is still a little bit different than in the NBA, where you can still tank to put yourself in a position to get more of the lottery balls, but at the end of the day, there is still some chance in that.
Yeah, but teams would rather take their chance with the lottery, right? And the percentage of getting a top 3 or top 5 pick as opposed to even trying to compete. I mean, there are teams this year that have been tanking since opening night. The Brooklyn Nets made no effort. The Brooklyn Nets made no effort this year to be competitive.
No, I know that, but I'm saying it. If I'm gonna tank, I'm definitely gonna tank in football because I know if I get the worst record here, I'm getting the best player coming into the league now.
Right, but the issue that the NBA is having, Trip, is that teams are consistently tanking. The Nets have been tanking for years. The Utah Jazz have been tanking for years, right? The Wizards have been tanking for years. We can go on and on. Sacramento has been to one playoff game in the last 16 years. These are teams that have actively have been tanking and been participants in the lottery. So to T-Mac, right? So that's my point, and that to a bigger scale, that's T-Mac's point. Is there enough talent? If you got a 30-team league, right? Yeah. Out of those 30 teams, Trip, 16 of them make the playoffs. So more than half your league is making the playoffs. That leaves 14 other teams. Out of those 14 teams, we're consistently seeing anywhere from 5 to 7 teams that are tanking. That's too large of a percentage for your league. So now if you add 2 more teams, 32 teams. All right, I got 16 that are gonna make the playoffs. Are now we looking at possibly 9 teams every year that are tanking? The NBA's got to figure out how to fix that part.
But even those teams that we're still tanking, right? You want to say, all right, Dallas is one of the teams that's tanking. Dallas still has a potential superstar on their team right now.
Yeah, but how does that help my on the court product though? If this team isn't even trying to win.
No, yeah, I mean but that and is their actual talent is 2 different things though. Yes, if tanking is bad for the NBA, but there's still the talent is still there. They just ain't putting them in position to win. But there's still stars even on the teams that's tanking.
All right. When's the last time you watched the Pelicans game?
Well, I don't really get the Pelicans games like that. Right. But
I mean, when's the last time you watched the Nets game?
I haven't watched the Nets game.
So that's the problem. Even if you say, all right, there's enough star power, right? Because expansion is going to thin out the star power.
But if Zion was playing and consistent,
Zion's been playing.
I would watch more Pelicans. Well, they don't come on in the area, but I would watch Zion play. Yeah, I would watch Zion play. The Nets don't really have no stars like that make me want to watch those games right now.
All right, so then that's to T-Mac's point, right? Because when you bring expansion in, now you're going to thin out rosters. Everybody's got to make players available for the expansion draft. So realistically, Seattle and Vegas next year may not have any household names. They may have some good players. They may not have like the household names that's going to make you, or the casual fan, not you and I, not most of our supporters, because we know most of the supporters, they diehard basketball fans anyway. But for the casual fan who might, a random Tuesday night, let me see what the new Seattle team is looking like. Well, they ain't got nobody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's to T-Mac's point. There might not be enough talent to add more teams to a situation where you got a lot of teams that are tanking. You got a lot of uninterested fans. Because Utah...
Right away, but the same way as before when Toronto and Vancouver came into the league, then eventually they got stars. Toronto eventually got Vince and T-Mac. They had David Steph. They had guys there, and then Toronto eventually.
But tanking is still an issue. And again, is there enough star power? Ace Bailey was a top pick from last year's draft. He's playing in Utah. Nobody pays attention to him
because he's playing in Utah. It's just the market.
All right, so we're still going to have that issue is my point, though, Trip. We're still going to have teams like Utah, like Brooklyn, like the Wiz next year probably be better, so I don't want to include them in this conversation. But Sacramento, you're still going to have these teams. New Orleans, you have teams now that have guys that are young, talented guys. There's talent there. We're not going to pretend that the Pelicans don't have talented guys. They're just a poorly run organization. We're not going to pretend that Dallas doesn't have some star power there. We're not going to pretend that, you know what I'm saying, if Milwaukee was healthy, yeah, different situation with Giannis. But there's still a lack of interest there. And that speaks to the bigger issue with the NBA. Are you going to have enough talent spread out to make it interesting for 32 teams? Because if we add 2 more teams, we get to 32, and we're still having the same conversation next year. Because right now, you turn on most nights, we're seeing the same teams over and over. we're regurgitating the teams that we watch over and over because there's just not enough good teams to put on TV. We've been subjected to having to watch the Warriors, even though Steph ain't playing.
Yeah.
We were subjected to watch Milwaukee, even though Giannis ain't playing. That's the Tracy's point. Like, it may not be enough to keep all these teams afloat. It sounds great to say, yeah, Seattle's getting a team, Vegas getting a team. But how long are we going to be interested? And then do we get to a point where now those teams can't even be on national TV because we have no interest in watching the product they're putting out?
Yeah, they're going to have to hit that draft and get somebody good to keep them people watching, keep them on TV. Shout out to Pooh. She says Duke got a tough one with St. John's, but if Duke handles the press solid, I think they will because of Cam Boozer. St. John's sometimes go through scoring droughts, and Lil Boozer been balling too. Shout out to Caden Boozer as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to pick against Duke, but even if because again, this is St. John's is a team that I am, familiar with just from being in the area. But I just think that Duke is the better team, and I think they'll beat St. John's. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think, but I think ultimately Duke gets the win.
Yeah, this is a tough matchup for Duke. I expect Duke to win, but I think this is going to be a very close game. St. John's, with their coaching experience, obviously with Rick Pitino, and the way they have on-ball pressure, they're going to press you all game. The Lil Booze, as they say here, is going to have to really be the difference maker in this game. He cannot turn the ball over. He cannot be careless in getting them into their offense. And I think Duke has to be very careful because, Pooh, you mentioned St. John's goes through some scoring droughts. Duke has shown that in this tournament as well, that sometimes they go through some scoring droughts. And I don't think there's a situation they can. The big man from St. John's is really, really good. There's going to be a good matchup with him and Boozer, and really who can impose their will, because I think Little Boozer is going to have to control the game. Cam Boozer is going to have to be a beast on the boards and really kind of creating space with the mid-range game and the three-point shot. So I expect Duke to win, but this is a tough matchup for them.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be easy. Let me go to Hoop Central's question. Oh, wait, hold on. I think we put that up, actually. Hold on 1 second. Compare Zay Cuff to... All right, here we go. Well, since I put this up, John says a lot of writers and press trying to put Luka past SGA, but you can't deny SGA. I think what happens with that is that the Lakers have been probably the hottest team in the NBA, and the stretch that they've been on and the numbers that Luka has been putting up on the stretch. Most people did not have the Lakers being in third place at this point in the season, or even coming together the way they've come together and improved on a lot of areas that were killing them in the past. So I think that's more so what it is. It's just that they're heating up at the right time.
I agree. I think Luka has been phenomenal. I would not put him ahead of SGA for the MVP voting. But Luka, as hot as he's been, with the Lakers now looking like a legitimate playoff team, Luka deserves some respect. Now, again, where you vote him is probably up to you and your personal opinion. But to me, I still have SGA over Luka for MVP.
Yeah, I still have SGA over Luka. But see, but I do think there is enough time for Luka just because of the numbers. If he continues to put up the numbers that he's putting up, but LA would also have to continue to win. He can make a case for himself, but it's not going to be easy because Shea is definitely in the lead right now. Dion Hoops page, shout out to you. He says, I'm getting excited because the Denver Nuggets and the Thunder are fully healthy this week with Watson back and J-Dub back for the Thunder. He's been out a lot this season. I'm interested in seeing how he's incorporated back into what they do both offensively and defensively because he's been in and out of the lineup so much. I'm wondering if that may affect their chemistry at all. So I am interested in seeing that. With Denver, they just need to be healthy, and they're just as good as anybody in this league.
Yeah, these are two teams that either one of them could come out of the West. Really, health is the most important thing for them. And so the Thunder getting J-Dub back is major for them because, like I said, he has missed a lot of time this year, and they need to get back to building that chemistry going into the playoffs.
Go to Jones' face. He said, Ozzy Food for UConn is the #1 WNBA draft pick, and I don't follow the women's game fully, but is this considered a deep draft? I know WNBA will add two new teams this season. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see Florget coming out. Shout out to her. She played her last game with LSU, and she'll be making that jump as well. But there's a couple of ballers out here in this year's class that's going to be coming out. Hopefully, we get somebody good in New York too, because we need somebody to help us get back to the promised land.
I don't think this draft has the star power. So Ozzy is like the most recognizable name, and she's #1 in this class. It doesn't have the same star power that we've seen from the last couple of drafts. But overall, there is good talent. We'll see how it plays out once we know what the order is.
We'll see who's coming out besides her. But yeah, you know what it is? Because we haven't had those storyline narratives like we were getting, what I'm saying, the last years. This is, and again, not to take away from the talent level, because there's a lot of really good players that will be coming into this year's draft. But like Eric said, the media, the press, the storylines, the narratives surrounding these young ladies isn't what it has been the past couple of years.
Yep.
It'll go back to that once Juju's back, though. Then we'll have the star power that's gonna bring the audiences back to women's basketball strong, like it's been the past couple of years.
Right.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Hoops Nation says Tracy McGrady's in the rundown today. Tracy McGrady went on national TV saying since Tatum has come back, the Celtics aren't playing as well. I mean, we knew it was going to take an adjustment time, and Tatum isn't playing the same as the first week or so, but as long as he's 95% by May. I mean, you got to think about the type of injury that Jason Tatum had, how long he was out for. He wasn't coming back and it was just going to magically be back to what it was. It's always going to be an adjustment period. We've got to now figure out how we're going to rework the chemistry and what's going on, who's doing what, because now our quote unquote best player is back. So there's a lot of things that we've got to adjust that may take time. But this is why, if he was going to come back, you needed him to come back when he did, so he would have the time, have the games to work himself back into playing shape, and then the team around him, would be able to really kind of get back and get ready for another deep playoff run. Because I do think this Celtics team is good enough to make a deep playoff run.
They're definitely good enough to win it all and make a deep playoff run. But this take by T-Mac makes absolutely no sense because they have been playing well since Tatum has come back. I think they've had, 2, maybe 3 losses, but one of those losses was the San Antonio game where Jaylen Brown gets thrown out in the first half. So they have played well. I think him and Brown have continued to build on that chemistry they had. One of my main concerns, like I said, was would it turn into your turn, my turn with their offense, getting Tatum back. It's actually been a pretty smooth transition, bringing him back in and getting the minutes, and he hasn't had any minute restriction. So I think overall the Celtics are just fine, and the Celtics are the favorites to come out of the East in terms of gambling odds. I think they should be the favorites to come out of the East because they're the most experienced team in the Eastern Conference, and I don't agree with T-Mac on this. Now, shout out to Hoops Nation. The percentage only Tatum will know. We could say, if he's 95%, 80%, whatever the case may be, only Tatum will know how healthy he is going into the playoff and how confident he is in his knee going into the playoffs. But I think everything he's shown so far is a good sign. I think the fact that he hasn't been on any minutes restriction is a good sign. And I think this team can be very scary because while he was out, we saw the emergence of Peyton Pritchard. We saw Derek White turn into a better player, and we've seen a lot of other guys. The shooting now with Hauser, with Shireman. The Celtics might be the most complete team, and like I said, I think they're the best team in the East. So I don't agree with T-Mac. I think this team is really, really good, and they can go on a deep playoff run.
Yeah, because I saw T-Mac say that he's trying to cause some noise. Celtics will be fine. Yeah,
I don't agree with that. And I hope y'all because I spoke highly of Tatum. I know y'all tend to think that I don't like Jason Tatum, but I just spoke very highly of him.
Shout out to John. He says KD passes MJ on the all-time scoring list. KD says MJ has no equal in any industry, and he said MJ is bigger than the game. Is KD glazing or keeping it 100? I mean, two things could be true at the same time. But no, I think it's just paying homage to the GOAT, to MJ. Guys are gonna pass MJ. This might not be the last time somebody passes him. Because we got guys that can score the basketball at an elite level. Obviously, you got to stay healthy, but again, no matter who passes Michael Jordan, that doesn't say that you're better than Michael Jordan just because you passed him on the scoring list. So it's just congratulations to Kevin Durant. It is what it is.
I don't view it as glazing. I think he's saying kind of what we all know. When he says MJ has no equal in the industry, we got to keep in mind what MJ did not only on the court but off the court at that point had never been seen, and even now we still haven't seen it. I mean, Michael Jordan hasn't played basketball in over 20 years, and yet his sneaker is still a top-selling brand. So I don't think he's glazing. I will say this though, we got to cut KD a little bit of slack. I know we like to talk ish about KD a lot, and we like to get on him. Remember a few months ago, maybe it might have been a year ago, when KD made those comments about this era is tougher because guys aren't leaving to go play baseball. Like, it was a direct jab at Michael Jordan. We talked about it at the time. And we all got mad at KD, like, oh, that's disrespectful to go at Mike that way. Mike's dad had just died. Now he's giving praise to Mike, and we saying, oh, he glazing Mike. Nah, KD's a student of the game. He understands what Mike meant to the game on and off the court. And that's just the way I viewed it. I feel like he's keeping it 100.
Oh man, let me you know what I did want to get to this issue between Clarissa Shields and 50 Cent now. She is suing him for defamation of character and libel and slander and some, it's just the thing that got out of control.
She's not gonna
This is the era of the lawsuit. She said he threw the body on her. Did he throw the body?
I mean, he didn't throw the body on it because homie produced receipts that showed that they weren't in consistent contact, and Clarissa sounded a little upset that he was hanging out he was on vacation with his girl, I think in like Tulum.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's tough to say 50. It's tough to say slander when somebody else is producing receipts of the interaction that 50's talking about.
Yeah.
So all 50 to kind of make himself exempt from the situation, all he got to say was, I was just repeating information homie told me.
Yeah, basically. But we're gonna see how this one plays out. Joe Flacco is back. He will be with Cincinnati. He's trying to get all the checks he can. I ain't mad at him. Get as much money as you can, Joe. Plus, it's in Cincinnati. You figure Joe Burrow gonna get hurt at some point during the season, so he might be able to come in and throw 1,000 yards in a couple of games.
Listen, if you Joe Flacco, best case scenario, Joe Burrow never gets hurt, and you got a check to be the backup quarterback. And like you said, worst case scenario, yeah, all right, maybe Joe goes down, and I got to get to play a couple games, but I got great weapons, right? I got Chase, I got Higgins, so I just come in and go back to what I was doing last year. But I ain't even mad at Joe. At 41 years old, if a team want to still pay you to be the backup, go be the backup. And guess what? We saw last year having a backup quarterback is very important. He's better than a lot of other backup quarterbacks, even at 41 years old. So I'm for it.
Yeah.
If Phillip Rivers can come off of the high school sideline and be a quarterback, Joe Flacco can still do it.
Put up Curry's comment. He says, let's be 100. MJ is getting past because they have played over 200 more games. I always say MJ effed up retiring twice. Yeah, I mean, because you got to think, right? If Jordan doesn't retire the first time, right, he's probably going to have at least an extra 4,500 to 5,000 points, right? Give or take. So now you've got him at 37,000. So now, and I'm not even, even if we don't even get to the other Wizards years, how many people got more than 37,000? So, yeah, if he doesn't retire the first time and then even the second time, let's just say after the second three-peat, Jordan comes back for another year after that. I think that year after they won the third straight, he can still get you 2,000 to 2,500 points. That immediate next year after that. So now you're talking about another, 7, almost 8,000 points right there. So yeah, that's what I said. It's like it doesn't. Congratulations to Kevin Durant, because I don't want to take away from the accomplishment, but it doesn't take away from who Michael Jordan is, because guys pass him in certain records, or for anybody, for not even Michael Jordan, just anybody. Like we just had the Shea break the Wilt's record, right? Does that take away from who Wilt was? Does that mean Wilt's not top 10 all time still, just because he had a longer consecutive streak of So yeah.
Michael Jordan's biggest mistake was that second retirement. He should not have retired. I know we saw The Last Dance, and we know the Bulls kind of forced him out, with Jerry Krause, but that's the one that hurts more. I think the first one is completely understandable. His dad had just died. You look at the timing of his dad dying, everything that was going on. Obviously, the NBA was starting to look at him, with a side eye because of the gambling, because that happened that playoff against the Knicks as well. And so he probably felt like mentally, I just need a break with everything that's going on in my life. I need to step away and kind of center myself. But the second one is the one I think that he will probably tell you himself he regrets the most, because he was still peak Michael Jordan. There was still opportunity, like I said, not only to win more, but also accomplish more as a player. And so even when he came back at 40 years old with the Wizards, he was still averaging 20 points a game. So you look at those years that he's gone, that he's retired, what was it, 3 years that he was out of the game? If he just stays, the accolades continue to rack up. Do they win another championship? I don't know. It's tough to say, because they were coming off back, another three-peat. But the accolades, the points per game would have still been in the range of high 20s. The ability to still do everything he was doing offensively was still there. So there was a missed opportunity there. That's the one where he messed up. The first one I completely understand because of the circumstances.
Yeah. Let me go to this next comment here. Shout out to Janetta Johnson. She says, why does Cam Thomas, a scoring machine, always get cut? Because sometimes teams need you to do more than just score points. Because there are those days where you don't have the big nights, and it's probably going to be more average nights than nights where you drop 40. So during those times, what else can you do to contribute to an organization? One, and then two, what's your attitude like? Because, a lot of times a player's attitude can cost them a situation.
Shout out to Janetta Johnson, but we got to choose our words wisely. Why are we calling him a scoring machine? For his career, he averages 14 points a game. He's a 43% shooter. He's 34% from three. He's a volume scorer. Now, as Trip mentioned, if you're going to just roll the ball out and let him shoot as much as he wants, great. But obviously, he has an issue with operating within an offensive system and understanding that every time you come across half court, you can't check up a shot. So I think, like a lot of guys, there's a lot of talented guys who can score the basketball. He happens to be one of them. But I think he's getting cut because he's struggling to fit within an offensive scheme and understanding that every shot isn't your shot. Everybody can't come in and think they're getting 20 shots tonight. Sometimes you got to be okay with just taking 6 shots, and you got to understand the pecking order on any team. And I just think he's a young guy that doesn't understand that. I felt that way for years. I remember when he went on that scoring barrage the first time with the Nets, and everybody was like, oh, he should get more minutes. No, he should learn to play within the offense. Yeah. He shouldn't just be allowed to come across half court and just take whatever shot he wants. And again, based off the numbers, it's not like he's a knockdown shooter. 43% for your career is not a great percentage as a shooter. 34% from three is solid. Say that again?
I said, and your team is not winning. So what happens is you get away with stuff when your team is winning. Like if the Nets were a top 5 team when he was with the Nets and doing that, people wouldn't talk about him the way they do. But when your team is losing, every glaring mistake becomes even bigger.
Yeah, he's a volume shooter. And the league has seen plenty of those guys before. He's no different than a lot of other guys. Once he is comfortable fitting into an offense and kind of taking on the role of understanding that some nights I'm gonna get shot, some nights I'm not, I think he'll be better off. But until then, this is gonna keep happening.
Yeah. Before I'm gonna take mine. We're gonna end with your question. Before because I did once while we was talking Clarissa, I did want to bring this up. The back and forth with Clarissa, thinking that she can beat Rolly or any championship male fighter. I did want to talk a little. I don't want to go too crazy on it. But I just think, and listen, we're in the social media era, so I know you building your brand, your platform. You got to say this, and it's a situation where this is a fight that's most likely never going to ever happen. We're not ever going to see a professional world champion male boxer fight a world champion women's boxer. I just don't believe that we ever see it. So you can talk crazy because of that. But yeah, I just don't think there's in any way, now I think there are men that she could beat in a fight, but not no multi-division world champion fighters. I'm sorry.
It's great clickbait. I think Clarissa Shields has started to master the trolling aspect and understanding the branding aspect, because we saw this with the whole Layla Ali thing. We talked about it. It made no sense. You're calling out a woman that's in her 50s who hasn't fought in over a decade, and you're making it seem like she's scared to fight you, when reality is just clickbait. And the same thing here with Raleigh and Keith Thurman. There is no way that Clarissa Shields could beat either one of them in a fight. And I love how she casually, and this is why I say the trolling, she casually threw it out there. Oh, I spar against men all the time. Sparring against a man and fighting him in a sanctioned fight are two completely different things.
Exactly.
When you're sparring somebody, 9 times out of 10, you might be working on one particular aspect of the game. And so therefore that person is not fighting you as if they're trying to beat you. They're helping you overcome whatever it is that you're working on.
Yeah.
It's no different than being in the gym with a personal trainer and you're only working on corner threes, right? He ain't exposing the rest of your game. He's just working on corner threes with you. So it's a wrap on that. She could not beat Raleigh. She could not beat Keith Thurman. And in terms of just the sparring aspect, there's that video that's circulating where she's sparring with a guy and he hits her with a simple jab and knocks her down. So what would you think happened when they start unloading and unleashing combinations? Stop.
Yeah, when they trying to kill you. It's different. They ain't trying to kill you in that sparring session, but you getting that in, and I ain't about to let you beat me. I was like, no man, like, because
come on, like she knows that
too. Way for a man a male boxer to get in the ring with a female boxer anyway, but you damn sure ain't using. So I'm coming to put you down.
I'm gonna give you a prime example, right? Prime example. I'm gonna use fighters that everybody knows about. When Zab Judah was a more recognized and world champion fighter, and Floyd Mayweather was still kind of a lower level fighter, even though he was the hot prospect, he wasn't on the level of Zab Judah.
Yeah.
Floyd used to be his sparring partner, right? Yeah. Obviously, fast forward, they fight years later, Floyd beats him. But Zab has also said himself, when we used to spar, obviously Floyd is not showing me his whole arsenal because we're working on things I want to work on. I'm the bigger fighter at the time. I'm bringing him into my camp. Floyd has done the same thing with other fighters that were younger, because Crawford sparred with Floyd early on when Crawford was building his name. So there's been plenty of fighters who have done that. To say, oh, I beat them in sparring, perfect example, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. How many times did they fight in the amateurs and spar? They spar plenty of times. That has no correlation to what takes place in the ring. You're sparring with headgear and bigger gloves.
Yep, exactly. So Will says there should be a college course on NBA where watching every playoff game in MJ's career is required. So many of these conversations about numbers and records would never come up. You had to be there. Let me pull up Imani's question because I know it's going to take us the rest of the show pretty much. The messy part, LOL. Okay, so Rapper Lotto announced she is pregnant. So many people feel it's by 21 Savage, but who is the guy that's married with 3 kids? It's not 21 married yet. Then some football or baseball player clowned her for coming out with that as an album rollout. But first of all, shout out to Lotto. I think Lotto is super dope. I don't know about her personal business. I can't tell you who the pappy was. Only thing I can tell you is I ain't the pappy. That's all I can tell you about her pregnancy. Whether it's 21 Savages or not, I have no idea. I would hope so since they're together.
Yeah, I heard that rumor. I don't know. I don't know who the other guy is that Monty's referencing there, but whoever it is, I mean, that's her business, you know. So, hey, happy for her. Hopefully, the baby's healthy. I ain't got no thoughts on that.
Yeah. Oh, let me throw this last comment up. Hope Central says I'm trolling, but Papoose must can't get no bag. Remy Hinkler said both look boyish. I mean, listen, I think Remy's sexy, so I ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying. But I mean, Kush is like a nice looking woman too. But that's to each his own. That's if that's what Papoose like, that's what he like. He like him, in Bronx chicks, the harder like that.
I mean, Remy has glowed up from when she first came in the game. That's a fact. She's glowed up, but I mean, like you said, maybe Papoose like strong women. Who knows? I don't know what he into, but that's all I'm gonna say. Maybe he just like strong women.
Exactly. And who Central says 21 Savages, the married man with 3 kids. All right, so there you go. So they happy. Let them be happy. Shout out to the GOAT, Jay-Z. You got that new interview out. Y'all might want to pick up some gems and listen to what Hov is saying out here, and don't be surprised if we get a new Jay-Z album somewhere in the near future too. I'm just putting that out there, but when it happens, you can be like, "Yo, Trip did say that a couple of weeks ago."
I think it's. Did you see the? I know you sent me the clip, but did you watch the full interview with GQ?
I didn't watch the full interview. I saw like 6 of the clips, so I may have watched the whole interview because
GQ has it up. Yeah, GQ has it up on their YouTube page. I believe he is coming out with an album because one of the questions was about the rumor that he was supposed to be on the Clips album. And he said, yeah, it was close to happening. He was like, but I didn't want that to be my first time back. I didn't want that to be the first, kind of time the world had heard me come back, which then kind of leads open like, all right, so then that means you got new music on the way. If you're saying that you didn't want that to be the first time people heard you back. So I have a feeling all of this is leading to the eventual rollout. He has the Roots picnic in May. He's got those 2 dates in July, which kind of would set the table for the album to come out either in August or September. So I think that's where we're going to get the new Hov album.
Absolutely. And he definitely talks about the allegations from that
he does,
woman, which I'm glad that he actually got the chance to speak on it now that everything has been dropped and that whole situation is behind us, even though people jumped on the bandwagon, but whatever. It's neither here nor there. Shout out to the GOAT Jay-Z. The interview should be on GQ. If you look at
GQ, on their YouTube page.
Yeah.
Right on YouTube. It dropped earlier today.
Oh, well, still, I'm the pappy. Let me see what this last one was. Didn't he say he's not a fan of rap beef anymore? Yes, he did say that because he was like, it's getting out of control. Which, after Cole stepped to the side and just let them, we see how crazy it got. We were just like, yo, I thought it was battle rap for real because the way they did, like, you talking about beating your wife, this one used a pedophile, like, it's super crazy. And then, one thing Jay was saying is that, we're in a time where, people going to pick it up. Social media is going to pick it up and it's going to amplify it to the 1,000th power. So, I get it. And then, you got to think, the Hov is older. What, are we not supposed to mature?
Right.
Like, I'm supposed to feel the same way at 50 that I felt when I was 20. That's just not how it works. Then that means there was no growth in you the last 30 years.
So, yeah, like I said, context matters because he goes on to say it's not that he doesn't like rap beef. Like he says, I still love the competitive spirit. He goes, what I don't like is what social media turns it into. where now it's almost like, and he uses Drake and Kendrick as an example, where it's like you can't support one artist because you like the other. Now you have people who turn this into a constant argument of, well, since I like this guy, that guy, I can never support him. I can never like him again as an artist. And he goes in this current space, he just doesn't like it. He loves the competitive aspect of it because he even goes into the 4 pillars of hip hop and why beef is important and is a integral part of the rap culture. But it's just unfortunate when you add in the fact that, like you said, statements were made about Kendrick's wife. Things were said about Drake's son, and now family members who have nothing to do with the beef get dragged into it. And then social media drags it out even further now because social media just won't let it go.
Yeah, exactly. So because it's gonna be a million memes, what I'm saying, gifts and all type of stupid nonsense that's gonna come along with it. So it is what it is. Eric, let's get into the final thought segment.
Man, as always, shout out to the supporters. We greatly appreciate y'all, man. What else we got? Oh, tomorrow night we'll go to 7:30, and then I'm also gonna be live on Thursday. So we're going with the 3-peat this week. Shout out to Terry Spain, Sports First Media. For you guys that follow me on social media, I was down at the Senior Bowl with him back in late January. I did the Orlando Magic game with him back in November. So I got him joining the show because he is covering the UFL Spring Football League for the Orlando Storm. And I also wanted to talk to him about college basketball because he was down at the ACC tournament. So he has some inside information, and we're going to talk about Syracuse because there's some news that's going to be coming out with Cayenne very soon. Obviously, Duke in the tournament, and he got a chance to chop it up with Carlos Boozer while he was down there. So we're going to talk some March Madness. We're going to talk some spring football. We're going to talk some NFL draft on Thursday.
Shout out to all the supporters. We always going to love and appreciate you guys. Shout out to Kevin Johnson, former member of the Phoenix Suns, mayor, former mayor of Sacramento. He was in New York, stopped by the job the other day. He's opening up a restaurant in Harlem near the Apollo, and I went to the restaurant in Detroit, and the restaurant is banging. So y'all definitely should check that out once it's opened up. With that being said, make sure you're following us on all our social media: Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, YouTube.com/For the Fans Productions, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk. And if you're not in the New York City area and you can't watch us Thursday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. on Verizon 43, do not worry. All you got to do is go to that website, realfansrealtalk.com, click the red button on the homepage, and you can watch from anywhere in the world. And make sure you subscribe to the 2 best podcasts moving. That's the Sanchez Show podcast and the Real Fans Real Talk podcast, streaming on all major platforms. With that being said, for myself, Trip Young, my brother, my co-host, Eric Sanchez, a.k.a. Legend in 2 Games, we up out of here. Peace.
This is Deion Grant from the New York Giants, Super Bowl champ, and you're watching Real Fans Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the king.
This is Real Fans Real Talk. Real Fans Real Talk. We as real as you thought. Real fans.